as we already have existed in the series through Charmy, and obviously I'm not talking about the style that of, Mars and Fauna, I want to know whether or not Yuno is going to have a form of hybrid Grimoire. And like I said, either that of like Charmy or possibly kind of like the deal with William and Patry, because I think theirs is probably more likely than the Yuno just being able to have like a double typed Grimoire. It's a little bit off in kind of the comparison, but the first one I thought of is Charmy, but I think Yuno would be much more like Patry and William, because with Charmy, she's actually like half human, half dwarf, whereas Yuno is a dude who has two souls in one body. We still don't know the status of which of the souls is still sleeping. I still have the belief that the Yuno that we know is actually the elf child, and the original Yuno, that being the Spade Prince, is the one that's still asleep. It's still a theory that I have, but it's not something that we can really go about right now. But from that, there's still the question of what exactly is going to develop of Yuno in his grimoire as of the continuation of the story. I'm not going to go into spoilers of chapter 238 because that's not what this video is really pertaining to. I'm going to do a video right after this, kind of like going over that. But I do want to go over the possibility of that, him getting a switched over type, because it's already existent in the series. We already know once, if you have two souls in one body, they are able to switch between the two, but it would be kind of hard because with the status of something like, as we saw with the resurrection spell, you can have like the elves take over, and they they get a boosted level of the grimoire that the original person has, or you can have something like William and Patry, where each of them can get a grimoire, and in that case, it would be the question of one, when is it going to happen, and two, how will the Spade version end up getting a new grimoire. And that's part of one of the reasons why I think the Yuno that we know is actually the elf child. Is he's got the Clover Grimoire, 4-leaf Clover specifically, which would relate back to his father with Licht. Whereas if the sleeping one is the Spade Prince, then it would open up the possibility of him getting a Spade Grimoire at some point going into the Spade Kingdom. So I just wanted to lay that whole kind of question out there. It's more of a like, well, what will develop from that? What would kind of like push like further forward? One thing that is really interesting, and again, I'm not going to go into spoilers, is the duality and the kind of like way that Yuno and Asta are constantly kind of like pushed and just alongside each other, of being kind of like very opposite. You have Asta, short and, very energetic and loud. You have Yuno, who, tall, lean, he's very calm. Asta is more of a melee kind of character who's got some ranged attacks. And Yuno is a ranged character that's some melee attacks. And then even further pushing, you have Asta's black form, which is, very demonic looking. And you have Yuno's spirit dive, which has this more of like nature and like much more like majestic look to it. But then further, if you have like a situation kind of like William and Patry, you would have Asta, who's got his, his devil, this extra voice in his body somewhere that we don't know whether or not he can freely communicate with him yet after the 6-month time skip. But then you can also have Yuno, who would have this other person present in his body, which also would be really cool, of like this way to kind of compare him to William and Patry. On top of that, when he moves up and becomes a captain of his first squad, if he ended up getting his own squad, you'd have his first captain, having that situation, and it being kind of like done in a dark way and a bad way, the way that the elves were being kind of like constructed, versus and the way that he is going to would have it, and the way that it would be for the sake of the Clover Kingdom, versus Williams for the way that it was really built was for the sake of the elves, even though we know though the kind of the layout of the story and how it really went down between the humans and the elves and the War Devil and whatnot. But anyway, below, just tell me your thoughts about this. Right now, I'm gonna start looking for maybe like little clues and whatnot that could really kind of build up to it, because I think there are still some like little breadcrumbs that Tabata has laid out prior, throughout the story that might hint at something like that. Maybe would hint at maybe the golden wind that we saw back in the the whole Elf Resurrection arc would pertain to something like that, or maybe it's just Yuno's further advanced form of wind magic that he'll see one day, versus maybe it has something to do with the whole sleep, whichever one is sleeping inside that body that actually is revealed to when we find out which one that we've seen is which character is the one that we've seen as and which one is the one that's sleeping somewhere within the body of that character. But anyway, comment below. Right after this, I'm going to do a video discussing that will contain information from the spoilers of chapter 238. So until then, really appreciate the comment below, thumbs up the video for the like button, subscribe button, and check out my other videos. But I appreciate everyone who's already subscribed, and I thank you all for listening.